So the other day, I started telling you guys the story of how my journey began. Um, and in the middle of the story, I just stopped. And that's because my goddaughter came over, and I hadn't seen her in a while, and I didn't think it was appropriate, even after she went to sleep, to come back and finish telling the story. I wanted the focus to mainly be on her, especially I haven't seen her in a while, and she's a baby. Like I didn't want to record here in the kitchen, and she's in the other room sleeping. God forbid, like she fell out the bed or something. Especially since I don't have a crib here, so I had to make sure she was good. So today I'm gonna finish the rest of the story. I left off saying that I had to, immediately start dialysis. The thing that I didn't tell you guys is that I was in intensive care. I was in intensive care in critical condition, what they're calling critical condition. Um, my blood pressure was like through the roof. It was 220 over like 130, which is like stroke territory. I had protein in my urine. I had blood in my urine. Um, I was blind, and basically, I was staring death in the face. And they were trying everything they could to not let me see the other side. Um, so let's see, where do we start at? Okay, so I'm in intensive care. I'm in intensive care unit, and they had to put in what's called an A line, which is basically like a main central line that they draw blood from. They get they get all your readings, vital signs and everything from. And back then, it was a giant contraption, and it was painful as hell to put in. Essentially, what they had to do right there in the room was the doctor, and it had to be done by a doctor. It couldn't be done by a nurse or anything. It had to be done by a doctor. She had to, pretty much cut my wrist open and insert like this metal probe into my wrist, into my veins, and it was painful. And from what I understand, it was really super bloody. Like, because essentially they're cutting into your wrist and they're trying to go into an artery, which that's dangerous as it is. Um, and I realized once my vision did come back that the blood had shot out my wrist and up to the ceiling. So there was like blood splatter all over the ceiling. And again, that's because my blood pressure was through the roof, so it was really pumping hard and fast in my body. Um, During this time, I had to have a blood transfusion, and they were telling me, that they were trying to explain like what it was, which I had an idea what a blood transfusion was. Um, I mean, I wasn't stupid like that. I wasn't dumb like that. So they began the blood transfusion, and maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the blood transfusion, I had a reaction. Um, and I started like shaking and convulsing, and I remember feeling something wasn't right. And I said to Mom, like, Ma, I said something doesn't feel right. I don't know. Like I felt panicked and nervous. I was like, Ma, something doesn't feel right, and I started like really shaking. And then um, after that, for me, everything went blank. Like I just woke up. Like I just knew that it was like the next time I knew it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. Um, my mom had informed me that I had what looked like was a seizure, and they had to give me um, all these medications to you know get me to stop seizing. Um, and that's when my mom said, you know what? She said that's when she got really super scared. She was like, you know, he just turned 21, a couple months ago. Like, she said his life can't be over now. Like he can't die now. And they reassured her that like I wasn't gonna die and that they were gonna do everything they can to make sure that I don't see the other side. And it was it was really rough on my mom, especially since she had no one there. Um, at the time, my great grandmother, or what I call her Nana, she was alive and she was at home taking care of my brother. My brother at the time I want to say he was like 8 or 9 years old. Yeah, because I see, hold, yeah, what's his name? Yeah, he's about 9 years old. Um, so she was, at home, with my brother, and she has to still make sure he got to school and everything. So my mom is like, my mom's a single parent, and she's like, torn between like, my oldest son is, here in the hospital, pretty much dying. My youngest son has to go to school and everything, and then on top of that, she's worrying about, work. Um, so like for my mom, I know that was like a rough time. Um, so we started, like I said, I had to start dialysis immediately, and that was like super rough. Um, I just remember like it wasn't painful or anything like that because I had a port in my chest, but it was draining and tiresome. And I remember feeling like the very first time, like I felt like I had just ran a marathon, and like I felt like I ran a marathon like at full speed the entire time, and that's how tired I felt. Um, and then once I was able to get back into and just rest and relax, I felt better. Um, and then what happened? Okay, so I spent 2 weeks or so in the intensive care unit. Um, After they deemed me stable, they moved me onto the floor. Now I was not on a regular floor; I was on a pediatric floor because at the hospital I went to, you're considered a peds patient until you're 23 years old. Um, which my mom was like, well, how is that possible? Like he's an adult. Like how's that possible? Something with their policies, whatever. But needless to say, I was the only 20-something-year-old on that floor. Um, Actually, after being in my room for about 3 days, they had brought another patient in, another guy about my age, and he had started going through, he had started, having symptoms of kidney failure. And I guess they maybe put us in a room together so we can like talk and bond and I guess deal with what's going on. Um, and it actually works. Like I wouldn't. I'm not gonna say we became friends, but we became cool, and we kept in contact. Here and there after discharge, um, and then it was weird because I was in the hospital a total of 30 days, and then he's in the hospital maybe like 3 weeks. So pretty much almost the same amount of time that I was in the hospital. Um, and then eventually he had to start dialysis and everything, and we went on different days, and I'm gonna fast forward now. It's like a year later, I'm going to what's called their satellite center, which is like an actual dialysis center outside of the hospital. And I remember it's one morning, you know, this guy walks in, Gregory, he walks in, and it was like, oh shit, like we had, we had spoke here and there, but at that point we hadn't spoke for like a couple of months. Um, so it was like, oh shit, like out of all the centers that they have, you come to this one, like, like one of those like rhetorical movie lines, because he was like a big movie buff. So it was cool. Here we are again, like we're the same age, we're sitting next to each other, and we're going through the same thing together, and it kind of helped. Um, it kind of helped because it gave me at least someone who was around my age going through something similar. Someone to talk to, someone who actually understood. Because most of the patients at the center, they were like in their 60s, in their 70s, a couple of 50s, a couple of 40s, but they were still like decades older than me. So it was like, okay, yeah, you're going through the same thing, but you don't understand like how it feels for like for a 21-year-old to be going through it. Um, so it helped that like that even though the situation was shitty, I had someone my age to talk to. Um, like my friends, they tried the best they could, but I knew that no matter how much talking we did or how much explaining that we did, which that's pretty much all it was for me, it was me explaining what was going on, they would never really truly understand what was going on. Um, I know they would be sympathetic to the situation, but they never really understood what was going on. Um, and that moment there kind of showed me like who was really like my friend. Because I used to say like when I was like then I should say, oh, I have five best friends, which now it's like it's only really it's technically really just it's really only the big three. Um, I have I it just showed me that like it showed me like what, you guys, yeah, you're my friends, but like you're not like my best friends. Like okay, my friend Keith now, like I said, I call him, he's part of the big three, and at the time he was dating my friend Caesar, and me and Keith, we were cool. We always had like a tight friendship, but initially I always looked at Keith as, oh, you're my best friend's boyfriend. Me and Keith, we hung out a couple of times, just me and him. But I was like, oh, but you're my best friend's boyfriend, so like, whatever. Um, but it showed me like going through that situation. It showed me I was like, you know what? No matter, even though him and Caesar are dating, Keith was actually down for me, and that was weird because at that point I had only known Keith a couple of months. Like I don't think even 6 months at that point. Um, and at the time he was living in Suffolk County, Long Island. So he came after work, after he worked like a long shift, and came out and sat with me for like a couple hours, and we talked, and um, it made me realize like damn, like you're down for me. Whereas um, two of my other friends who I had known for years, not once called, text, came up to visit me, nothing. And that put me in my feelings. That put me way in my feelings. So eventually, like like once I was able to go out and get once I was better and able to go out and everything, um, I at least expected them to say something like ask me how I'm doing or something. Nothing. It was like nothing ever happened, and they knew what the situation was. Like I knew. I know Caesar, told everybody what was going on. I know Kaisha told everybody what was going on. Hell, my mom called most of them and told them what was going on. And I was like, so you really thought that much of me? Like you thought nothing of me to even want to know how I was doing? And that just made me realize, like, maybe you guys really aren't, the friends I think you guys are. So then I just, I was in my feelings, and I started, going into the self exile, and eventually I started cutting people off and stopped talking to people altogether. Um, but Caesar was not having that. Keith wasn't having that, and Kaisha wasn't having that either. They weren't having that. Um, they made sure that I was like, you know what, let's make sure he's okay, and do you need anything? And hey, what are you doing? I'm gonna come over and like hang out with you for like a while, just to just to hang out with you. And that made me feel good. Made me feel better. It didn't stop the depression though. Like I was definitely depressed. I was in denial about it, but I was definitely depressed. I was definitely, in deep depression. Um, and I've always been the type of person to, no matter what's going on in my life, like I always have a smile plastered on my face. So whether you know me or whether you really know me or not, you think everything's okay. But most people have that thing, like where like you're fine on the outside, but inside you're like, well, I want to destroy the world, or I want to hurt somebody or whatever. And I was definitely going through that. Um, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. So let's fast forward 2 years. So I've been on dialysis at this point 2 years, and they had mentioned to me before about like what are my options like other than just doing dialysis, and it was like they revisit the doctors they revisited like, well, why aren't you on a transplant list? And that initially I was like, well, I just started this, and I don't I didn't know anything about it, so I had started the process for doing for a transplant, and it was a lot. It was a lot of tests, a lot of paperwork, a lot of back and forth. Um, and initially, I had a donor. I had a live donor, which if you had, which at that time, if you had a live donor, like the process was like super fast. Um, my uncle was going to donate a kidney to me, and um, we went through the process and everything, and he was a match. He was definitely a match. So we were going to schedule the appointment, schedule the transplant and everything, and then he gets into a car accident, um, a very bad car accident. He's alive. He's very good, but for a moment there, he wasn't. Um, Needless to say, is he couldn't he couldn't be he was no longer a candidate to to donate a kidney because in the car accident, his one of his kidneys was severely damaged. So had so they couldn't go forward with a transplant because if they were to transplant his kidney to me, then he would be in my situation, which he was willing to do still, but he was still willing to donate his kidney, but the hospitals were like, no, you can't do that, like you'll have to go on dialysis and on a transplant list and everything, but he was willing to do that. So needless to say, it fell apart. But you know what? I'm kind of glad that it fell apart because then I was still dealing with the depression, and it was only getting worse. Um, like I stopped taking medications, and I started kind of neglecting myself. So yeah, it was a good thing that then it didn't happen. Um, I'm gonna leave it there because then that goes into a whole nother story. Um, but you guys know the outcome. You guys know I had a successful kidney transplant, just a couple of months ago in 2015. So you guys know that the story does end well. But the next part of the story is a major part of my life. I want to save that for like a later day to talk about because I think every Saturday or so, I'm gonna tell you guys like a part of my journey to get me to here right now where I am. And that then this next part's a very major part. I'll tell you what it entails. It does entail still me with treatments and everything, but it also entails um, relationships and and work. So I'm gonna end it here. Um, as always, I want you guys to, if you feel free to, leave a comment if you guys have any questions. I will answer it in tomorrow's vlog, or the vlog after, or whenever I see the questions. If I don't see the questions within like a couple of days, I'll just reply to the comments below. Um, so yeah, so you guys will be up to date at least. Um, as always, I want you guys to remember that this year is the year of amazing. Um, I'm calling 2016 the year of the amazing movement, because I noticed that like for some reason people tend to want to talk to me and tell me their stories and tell me their business, their tea or whatever. Shout out to the tea. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, the tea. And I realized that a lot of people have like negative outlooks on life, and having a negative outlook brings negativity. So with the year of amazing, the year of amazing or the amazing movement, it's all about having a positive attitude and bringing positivity in your life. Doing things that are amazing, which are positive. And I want you guys to remember that as long as you have that positivity, the amazing things will happen. So as always, remember, always be amazing.